I'm back.
Yeah, just a moment. I'll just live stream, get back to you. All right, Russ, I have pushed the stream live and I've made you the host back again. And I'll be TAing for you for the rest of the session.
Great. I'm going to check on the attendance before everybody jumps in.
All right. And also I'll be keeping a check on the attendance. I'll keep a track of it. I'll send it to you afterwards on Slack.
Yes, that's great. I like that. Thank you very much.
No worries. And when you were not there, the picture there was, I think that was your grandson or
That's my grandson. Yeah, that's my grandson. Yeah, my son.
Yeah,
He's
really
almost
cute.
3 now. Yeah, he's just adorable. He's grown up quite a bit. He wasn't even a year old in that picture, but he looked like I'd caught Santa's elf. So
Yeah, very cute, very cute.
yeah, this will be a small class today, so it'll be very easy. I will allow people to ask questions while I'm teaching. Usually when there's just 10 to 15, I allow them to do that. When it gets up to 20, I usually ask them to put their questions in the chat, and they can still do that. I'll tell them they can put questions in the chat, but I'll also invite lots of questions. This is a mostly a demonstration class where I use my phone, and I'm going to just double check my phone while we're here. Now that I think about it, don't want to be caught with that. If I do share iPhone via AirPlay, yes, that's there. Make sure that option is there. Okay, good.
Yeah, you can ask them to put their questions in chat. I can moderate to you, or you can ask them to like unmute themselves and ask the questions. Anything that works best.
It's some of it's going to depend on who it is in the class. Some people, I know them, they like to ask questions, and so I'll let them do that. Some are more comfortable just putting the question in the chat and not having to ask directly. So we'll see what they want to do today.
Exactly. Yeah. So let me know, when do you want me to hit the record button?
You can hit record button as soon as the first learners join in.
Okay, no problem.
Which ought to be in any minute now. Here they are. Good morning, Mary. Good morning, James. Good morning, Johnny and Danya. Good to see you all today.
Good morning.
Let's see, Mary, you are calling from, is it Gainesville, Florida? I'm getting pretty good at remembering that. James, I forget where you're from. Oops, you're muted.
Jack.
Sorry, you're still muted.
Jacksonville,
Florida.
Oh, just up the road a piece.
Well, yes, that's not that far from Gainesville. That's like an hour and a half or something like that.
Yeah, thereabouts, depending upon where in Jacksonville.
And good morning, Joyce.
Good morning.
And I mentioned Danya. And Ivy, glad to have you all here this morning. And Gail. Joyce, have you got your pad out to take some notes?
Yep.
I always do.
Good for you. No, I like that. I do the same thing. I was doing some reading this morning, and I made some notes into my diary about some websites to look up where I could find more information about walking. So good for you.
Yeah, I just do it out of habit.
Yeah,
well, it's a really good habit, actually. This is a scientific fact, in case you didn't know it, that when you engage multiple senses in learning, you learn better. So about 20 some years ago, I completed a graduate degree, went back in midlife to get a master's degree. And I took notes in class and then by hand. So I was listening, I took notes by hand, and then I went to my computer and I typed them. And then I took a digest of my notes because I had an unusual course where several of my classes where professors, when you had to do a paper, they required that you use something had to be from class notes.
Oh.
And I discovered that all that multiple going over things, I learned stuff a lot better. And so then I had to take a 4-hour written exam. I'd do two things at the end. I had to have an oral exam and a written exam to complete my degree. And when I came to the oral exam, I was allowed to make notes that I could bring with me to the exam. I couldn't, nothing, still had to type the answers at the exam, but I could bring along. So I then took the digested notes from, I don't know how many courses I'd taken, a lot of courses, and 3 years of evening school, and had them in a little published thing that I brought, printed booklet that I brought along. So I remember that stuff to this day. So I say, take notes. In fact, I'm so old school that I remember in the days when you were learning stuff on the computer that I took notes, like click on this, and then you go there with an arrow, go to that, and click on this. And my kids are like, what? How do you do that? I'm like, well, I learned.
Yep. Click this, click that. Yeah, that's what I do.
Go here, go there, just little arrows, go to this, then go to this, then go to this, then here's the menu there. And it still works for me.
Yeah,
Shoot, I was before computers. We didn't have computers when I was in school.
Yeah, well.
Great, graduate school either.
I actually took a computer programming class in high school in 1974, and it was really good. I learned BASIC, which is the first computer language, I guess. And then I learned a little bit of Fortran, and then I never used it after that. I thought, what's the point of that? And then I would see these kids in college walk around with these big stacks full of computer decks, cards they were going to feed into the machine. I thought, what's the point of that? And then I realized decades later, they're the ones all making a fortune in Silicon Valley. So you have to laugh because I thought, what's the point of that computer programming stuff? It was interesting. And I learned one valuable lesson in my computer programming class. I mean, I did about 20 years ago, learn how to HTML and how to program, do web pages, which is not as hard as you'd think. And it's based on the same idea of the early computer programming that I had in class. But I learned one valuable thing in computers. I think my teacher taught me this. He said, remember, computers do what you tell them, not what you want them to do.
It's true.
So if you tell them the wrong thing, they'll do it.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Mars, a lot of people come, they're like, I don't know what my computer did. I said, well, it probably did what you told it. And you probably don't know what you told it because we all make mistakes on computers all the time.
Yes.
Well, welcome everybody. This is a really fun class. This is one of my favorite travel classes to teach. I've actually got a whole suite of classes around using online resources to plan travel. And yesterday in one of our classes, a learner suggested a class, which I thought was a good idea. It's called How to Plan a Trip. And, everything from deciding where you go and figuring out a budget, and then learning like, how do I get there? And when I get there, what will I do? Stuff that I guess I've learned over the years. And so in a couple of weeks, I should have a course on that.
Oh, that'd be good.
A class. And a lot of you that are experienced travelers are welcome to join in and add your wisdom. So I always I like it when people come and they tell me stuff that ought to be in the class. That's a good point. Today's class, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, even though a few more folks may join. I just want to welcome you all. I think I've welcomed everybody. Liz was Liz NYC. Thanks for renaming yourself, Liz. And Gail, this is a nice size class. So I will invite you today. You can ask questions two ways. You can put your question in the chat and we'll arrive at it later. You can also just interject your question as I'm teaching, because the class isn't that big that we can't do that. So this is mostly demonstration, and you'll get a chance to look at some of these sites today. So without any further ado, let me do a screen share with you, and we'll look at something that should say using online and mobile apps to plan travel. And this was a class, again, that came out of a learner request, and it's been a very fun class for me to teach. A lot of people have enjoyed this class. I'm your guide, Russ Eanes. I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia. I'm a writer, a walker, and a cyclist, and a traveler. I do a lot of traveling, except the last year. I haven't done much. Who has? I formerly was a book publisher, and when I was a publisher, my favorite thing was to help authors shape their ideas into a final book. That was always a lot of fun. Yeah, I am an avid traveler. I have 16 overseas trips. I used to travel a lot nationally and to Canada for work. I went to Canada probably 20 times. I had no idea. I decided to stop counting. And I love the energy I get and the wisdom I collect from working with older learners, which is why I'm now a full-time guide with Get Set Up. I'm mostly teaching stuff right now about classes about travel, and we're having a lot of fun and enthusiasm with that because most of us are anticipating that we may actually get to travel again. Get Set Up helps you learn useful skills from people like you. We learn from each other. So ideally we can see you and your cameras are on. You can request a recording after class. You email help@getsetup.io, and maybe our TA today, who is Joe. Thanks for being on, Joe. I should have introduced Joe, our TA. He can put that in the chat, and you can save the chat or copy and paste it out of the chat. If anyone's joining by live stream, and we are live streaming today, the best way to participate is to join us and register for a class. Lastly, Get Setup's not paid to promote any specific products. I'm going to be showing you a lot of sites and products today, and I'm not being paid to promote any of them. And looking in the chat, Joe has put his introduction in. Great. Thanks, Joe, for doing that. I always love having the TA. Okay, our agenda. I'm going to show you some tips about online travel services for planning travel and making reservations. So we'll start with some on my laptop, and then I will show you some mostly on my phone. And there is a class tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning about using your mobile phone for travel, because there's three major ways you can use your mobile phone. You can use it just for communication. You can use it for photography, which I do a lot. And the third way you can use it is just for keeping track of all your reservations. There's a couple other stuff you can do with it too, and I'll show you some of that today. We're going to research some travel apps for some services and for the same services that are online, and some of the services that are not online. So some of the apps I show you today are strictly for your phone, and some are only online. And I'm not going to be able to tell you today when you can travel where, but there's a class coming up on that in a few weeks. When can you travel where? I'll show you some of the sites and resources you can get to find about safe travel, where you can go, and when you can go there. So I'm going to just briefly mention these in a slide today. You're going to see these right on the screen. These will all be in your notes. So in case I go too fast and you don't get them, this will all come to you after your class in your notes. Some of the online apps that we use for travel, for example, are Airbnb, Booking.com. That's where I make most of my lodging reservations if I need them. I also use Orbitz to make flight reservations or other transportation like car rental. Though sometimes I just use Orbitz to research prices. Another site I'm going to show you is something called Scott's Cheap Flights, which is a daily email that I get from Scott telling me about flight deals. They may or may not be places you want to go, but you might change your mind when you see the price. Many of these sites are also available as apps for your phone. Don't worry, I'll go over all this. So if I move through here too quickly, you'll get a chance to see it all. For example, Airbnb and Booking.com and Orbitz are all available as apps on your phone. You can make the reservation either through your computer, using your laptop, desktop, or on your phone. I'm one of those people that finds some stuff on the phone to be kind of clumsy and slow, and I can do it faster and easier on a keyboard on my laptop. And I will demonstrate to you several of the apps that are very helpful for travel. Some of this will also be covered in tomorrow's class, but we'll go a little more depth with some of them today. For example, I'll show you Google Translate, something I use all the time called Globe Convert. I'll show you that I have an altimeter. I'll point out INRIX, Yelp, fun little thing called tides near me. You ever go to the ocean and wonder when the high tide or low tide is? And where do you find that information? There's an app for that. We'll talk a little bit about some of the national train apps. Amtrak has one, but do you know there's one in Germany too? Deutsche Bahn. Actually, most of the national trains, whether you're in France, Spain, Scotland, England, they all have apps on your phone. So you can make reservations and keep track of your train table, your timetable on your phone. And of course, there's airlines, and you can also use Apple Wallet to keep boarding passes and tickets. So I'm going to stop the share with this right now, and I'm going to go and I'm going to share with you my browser. And I'm going to open Safari. And I'm going to type into the Google, I'm going to put in here Airbnb. There's Airbnb. Okay, everybody see Airbnb? Okay, so this is an example of probably and there's, by the way, there's a whole class just on Airbnb coming up Thursday morning at 11. So if you want to know how to use Airbnb, really get into the nuts and bolts, I'll give you an entire class on that. Not promoted by Airbnb, and there are upsides and downsides to Airbnb, and I'll try to talk about some of that in the class. But this is where I make a lot of reservations. Airbnb has everything, believe it or not, from rooms in houses. I mean, literally couches in rooms and houses, though mostly they're guest rooms, to bed and breakfasts and hotels. There's really the whole range of housing. You can get a trailer somewhere, you know, these cozy little travel trailers. You can get a guest cottage. The entire realm of lodging is on Airbnb, and they are the world's largest. You always start by going in and signing into your account. Let's see, let's continue. Let's do a login. Same window. Okay, we're going to just continue it with Google. And I've got one email address I use for Airbnb, and we'll see if it pulls that up. Oh boy, they're going to have to confirm it's me, so they're going to send me a text. All right, let's go ahead and do that. This happens. It's a way of extra security. I'm not totally sure why it's needed, but it is an extra form of security. There you go. Now I'm into my site at Airbnb, and that's interesting. I'm going through a login again. This is an unusual loop that I'm running around on. That's kind of funny. Maybe we won't do Airbnb today.
Wasn't there some trouble with Airbnb a while back? There was some kind of controversy going on with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. You know what, folks? We're just going to leave Airbnb this morning as far as signing in. I will point out these. So here's all the different options you can get on Airbnb. You do need to create an account, and you need to create a profile on Airbnb. So it's a form of social media. So you see the place you're staying, and you see reviews of the place, and there's usually great detail about the place you're staying, and they see information about you. When you stay somewhere, they review you, and you get to review them. So it's a way of adding safety to anonymity. So actually, I should say it really makes you not anonymous because people know who you are. And honestly, I put out everything about who I am on Airbnb because I want them to know the most about me. I mean, I have a Facebook page. They could even go and look me up on Facebook if they wanted to. But all the information and reviews of past visits by Airbnb are there for me. So we're going to leave the problems with Airbnb this morning because I didn't want to dig into it too deeply anyway. But it's also on a phone app, and you can make your reservations. It is very good. You can get all sorts of different places you can make reservations for. You know, I'll just pop one in right now just for fun so you can see. I'm going to put Harper's Ferry. Oops. This is I'm going to put in here Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, because that's a place my wife and I like to go. It's about a 2-hour drive. I'm going to put in here some dates in June. the 11th and 12th. And I'm going to have 2 guests, and I'm going to search for that just to give you an idea. And so it brings up a whole bunch of places that I can go. We'll do this in depth in the class Thursday. And they show me the cost per night. They also show me on a map so I can see the location where I am. And so it's really, and you can move the map around like this, and you can zoom in over a location like that. So Airbnb is great. If you come into class Thursday morning, I'll show you a bit more about how you set up an account and how the place that you potentially want to stay has an account. But we'll stop there with Airbnb because I want to show you some other things.
Russ, real quick, you said that you use a separate email for Airbnb?
Well, I have multiple Gmail accounts because I have things for my various jobs and works, but I have sort of a personal one. And that personal email account is the one that's linked to Airbnb. The strange thing I just noticed today was when I went to log in, it didn't give me a choice to log in through that. Maybe it was through my phone. I don't want to take time in the class today to show you that. But yeah, since I have multiple email addresses, you can do different things. You can log in with Google, which will attempt to use one of your email addresses, or Google accounts, because Gmail accounts and Google accounts are the same thing. You can have multiple Gmail and Google accounts. They're all free. Or you can do it through Facebook. I don't like to do it that way because frankly, I don't want to have every place I search for lodging for pop up on Facebook later if I'm going there. So yeah, those are the different options. In the class, I'll show you all in a little bit more depth. This morning, I'm going to go to one of my, I'm going to show you that I get this daily email from Scott's Cheap Flight. See that right there? I click on the email. Every day, Scott sends me, I sign up for this and it costs $49 a year. They send me all sorts of options, and the options are twofold. One, you can have like a place you'd like to go, and they'll let you know what it might cost to go there. But what most people use Scott's Cheap Flight for is this. They go out and they find cheap deals, okay? And you can, they're like accidental prices where like the airline put the price in by accident and it's up there for 2 days, and airlines do honor that if they make a mistake. And sometimes airlines are like, gosh, this upcoming flight is not very, there aren't enough bookings on it, so we're going to lower the price to get more bookings. It will also sniff those out and pass them to you. So like today's deal that they're sending me is, well, let's view this online. Let's go to Scott's, click on their website, and it's Maui. And you can get flights from $327. Now that means depends where you want to leave from. And if you want to go to Honolulu, I did say Maui, I meant Honolulu. Here are all the different, on the right are all the different prices. So if you're leaving from Albuquerque, it's $396. I'm from Washington, D.C. Oh, look, no, it is also to Kauai. Look at that. There are no cheap flights anywhere from Washington, D.C. I'm going to have to go. I'm looking at these. They're either from Florida, like Tampa. If you're in the West, Tucson. Okay, there's New York City, $463, $476 if you're leaving from LaGuardia. These are all the different these are all the best deals that they're finding to go to that destination. And this is how much it's going to cost if you leave from each of these places. So Boise's $396. You can create a travel profile. I won't show you that right now because we don't want to spend a lot of time, but you can they'll get an idea of the kind of places you might like to travel. Like you could put in your profile, I want to go to Latin America. I want to go to Colombia. I want to go to Guatemala. I want to go to Honduras, and it'll know that, and it'll keep an eye on those prices, on good prices and deals for you to those places. So $49 a year, you get a daily email. If you don't want extra email, then don't do that. But I find that's a relatively small price. That's about $4 a month, and I get good prices. If this is all about airline. Yes.
Do they include like business class fee, prices and different grades?
They don't, because they're trying to find you the best price, which tends to be economy class. So I would say you're going to have to go on and check that. I would take also a guess that business class is rarely sold at a cheap price. And of course, there are some, Southwest doesn't have business class. So if you're looking at, and by the way, Scott's doesn't just give you international flights, they'll give you national flights. So one day the email might be Tucson for, $150, and I'll just click on it and go and see, well, where is that from? And it might say from New York or Washington. I'll be like, well, that's a good deal if I want to go to Tucson. Right now I don't, but so you can set that up also in your travel profile. So it'll be more aware of, I'll click on it. So, I haven't created one, but it shows you travel profile to let us know which deals you're most excited about. It doesn't limit that. In other words, it'll still give you the day's deals, but it'll also keep an eye on the places you want to go. And I'll show you a site that's a little bit better than that for doing that, but it's on your phone. While we're here, let me just also show you a favorite place of mine for lodging. It's booking.com. And I use booking.com for a lot. Same deal with booking.com. You can put in a place. So I'm going to put in here again, Harper's Ferry and West Virginia. Okay. And I'm going to put in there the same dates, 11th and 12th, 2 adults, and I'm going to search. And booking.com has a range of places, also depending a bit on whether you're in the US or whether you're somewhere else in the world. So in booking.com, they've got for me the Clarion Inn Conference Center. So that's a hotel. They've got 2 adults for $99 a night. You can click on here to find availability. Quality Inn is $104. The Light Horse Inn, which is, I think, like an extra, I think it's a bed and breakfast. See how it says here, breakfast included. And then there's more bed and breakfast, Ledge House bed and breakfast, Canuta Inn, Army Quarters, all down here. You can sort booking.com different ways. You can sort it by price. So you want the lowest price first. But also when I've been in a city, and I'll give an example of when my wife and I traveled to Italy to walk along the Via di Francesco, we did all of our lodging through booking.com. And I sorted it sometimes by distance from the center of the city, because I didn't want to stay a mile or 2 away from the center of the city for a cheap price, because I didn't want to walk all that distance just to get into the center of the city each day. So for example, you can see here, the Clarion Inn Conference Center is 1.9 miles from the center. That's not so good. The Quality Inn is 0.8 miles. So that's half the distance. And the Light Horse Inn is also that distance. The Ledge House bed and breakfast is only 650 feet from the center of town. So let's click on that. And it'll show me the amenities. That looks pretty nice, I think. And then down here, they've got prices. They only have one option. In other words, you can get a double bed for $153, exceptional breakfast included. So this is a bed and breakfast. That's all nice to know. And all the amenities are over here. If there's Wi-Fi, another thing I like to look at is the refundability. So it says it's partly refundable. I better find out what that means. Oh, it says you'll be charged 50% of the total price if you cancel after reservation, and the total price of the reservation if you cancel in the next 7 days before arrival. So
you need to give her Peggy's number.
You need to put the phone.
Yeah, they'd be 2 buddies together in the same boat.
I think you're gonna have to tell somebody to put her on mute.
Yeah, we need to mute someone here. I've
already requested that.
TA to check that. There we go. Just to give you another example here, and this is when you're looking at a place that might have multiple places, like the multiple rooms. Let's check the Quality Inn. I click on this and I go down here, and the Quality Inn, there's some photos of some rooms and of the lobby. Now I've got different types of rooms down here at different prices. What's nice, I see a good breakfast is included in that price. Often that's nice. That's an amenity for me. Sometimes the hotel breakfasts aren't so good, so beware. But a bed and breakfast are going to be good. What I like about this price at 104 is there's a free cancellation. If I cancel up to the day before, I don't have to prepay ahead of time. I like that. For $88, I can get the same deal with the breakfast, but it's non-refundable. So I'm going to pay an extra $16. That's the difference between 88 and 104 to get refundability. And you have to just decide whether, I know I'm taking this trip. I know I'm going to stay there. No doubt about it. Let's save $16. If you like the flexibility, pay a bit more. I've done it both ways. And then there's more options down here. This is a standard double room with 2 double beds. This one right here is a standard king room. And so there are the different options of types of rooms and different prices if you scroll down. So I like booking.com. They're very good. They'll keep track of all that for you. And it's also on my phone. And we'll get over to the phone in a couple of minutes and you'll see that it's there as well. One other site I'm going to show you is Orbitz, and that is, again, also on your phone, but I often use Orbitz to search for things. There are many sites like Orbitz, Expedia, Priceline. A lot of them are similar, and they're not all exactly the same. So Priceline is often looking for deals for you. Orbitz is, I think of it as a comprehensive reservation site. You can get hotels, you can get flights, you can get rental cars. You could search for a package that might be available. I don't tend to travel that way looking for them. They've even now added cruises off here to the right. So what I like about it is I like to search for flights. And so look here, I've got a flight search in here already, Washington, D.C. to Portland, Maine on June 3rd to June 7th. I'm just going to hit the search button. That must have been the last search I was doing. And it's going to pull up my options and it's going to give me the cheapest flight to the most expensive flight. The cheapest flight is has a stop, 1 stop in it. And you have to think about how long that's going to take. So here's a duration right here, 5 hours and 51 minutes with 1 stop. Down here is a nonstop. Okay, 1 hour and 30 minutes. That's what I want, actually. And if I decide that's the flight I want, I will go here and I will click on it, hit select, and it'll also tell me, if I select this fare, it'll tell me what airline I'm on. And look at that, it's not telling me what airline I'm on. Let's back up here. I do like to see what airline I'm on, and you click on details and baggage. There it is, United. So I know it's a United flight. Now I'll tell you a little secret. I'm already on this flight. So I use orbitz.com to find all the available flights. And then I actually have a frequent flyer membership or number with United. So I went to the United site and I made the reservation there. One handy thing about Orbitz is you can make a reservation with multiple airlines. So you can fly, and they'll give you all those options. They'll give you, if they have a multiple stop flight, they'll give you you can fly from here to here in this airline, then you can switch and fly from there to there on that airline, or you can fly nonstop one way on one airline and flying nonstop one way on another airline. It'll make those individual reservations with those airlines for you. It'll even plug in your frequent flyer number so that the airline will recognize you. I, of course, always caution people. I don't like taking flights where I use one airline to fly to one airport and then switch airlines to go to the next leg, because if there's a delay on the first flight, they won't take responsibility to get you onto the next flight. If you're flying just one airline, like if I'm flying on Delta and the first Delta flight is delayed and I miss my second Delta flight, Delta will be responsible to make sure they book me to get to my destination. So that's just a little caveat, which is the thing about using Orbitz. Orbitz does give you good car rental prices. So it will know if I book a flight through them to Portland, Washington to Portland and back, it knows I've got that flight. It'll give me some options for a car rental if I want it. By the way, right now, in case you don't know this, car rentals have become very expensive. They are 3 to 4 times what they used to be. So if you're thinking of travel and using a car rental, do some research before you make those plans. Either find another form of transportation or make sure you can get the car rental. And the problem apparently is not just price. I've been reading about and also hearing directly from some learners that even if you manage to get a reservation, there's long waits at car rental desks. So for example, on my trip, I'm not going to use a car rental. I found a bus that will get me from Portland to where I'm needing to go after that. So that's Orbitz. It is also on your phone. I'm going to stop the share here and I'm going to switch over to my phone now. And I'm going to show you a few of these sites and one more. And then I'll show you some different sites. So we're going to do share with my iPhone. And okay. And you should see my phone. Everybody see the homepage of my phone? Great. Good. That worked. Okay. So I'm going to log in here and I'm going to show you. I have a whole folder on my phone with all sorts of apps on it. You should see Globe Convert, Airbnb. So for example, Airbnb, I just click on it and now I can look at Airbnb in my phone. I could make the same reservations on my phone that I made online. I find typing on a laptop a bit easier. I don't know if anyone else is like me. I'm very clumsy with using my phone to type, and I make more mistakes than getting correct letters some days.
Yep.
And so, but here's the neat thing about and you'll learn this in Airbnb class on Thursday. If you use Airbnb, make your reservation, all that is kept on your phone for you. So you can then communicate with the host. The host might say, what time are you going to be coming? So I'm there to welcome you, or I'm going to leave the key in a lockbox. Here's the combination to the lockbox so you can get in. So Airbnb does all that kind of communication for you, which is nice, and has all your reservations. The same thing is true. Here's booking.com. We were just at booking.com. And I use booking.com so much that they call me a genius. Well, that's not actually a compliment. It's just a level of membership. And it means that you use it a lot. And so they give me additional discounts, 10 to 15%. Well, heck, I'll take that. If I'm going to spend, $150 on a lodging, I'll say 10% off. I mean, that's worth it. That's a meal. So anyway, you can do the same thing on searching for things around on booking.com. So you remember we were searching Harper's Ferry, Harper's Ferry. Okay, there it is. It's got 15 properties. Let's again do those same dates in June, the 10th to 11th. And oops, I forgot to put in 2 people. It's bringing up the exact same places you saw before: Clarion Inn, Quality Inn, Light Horse Inn. And if you click on them, by the way, this little bar here says breakfast included. That's kind of nice to know that right up front. It'll show me the same information. And last summer, I was biking from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C. on the Rails to Trails, Great Allegheny Passage, C&O Towpath. And I did all my lodging on booking.com on my phone because I was doing my booking as I went. So that's one nice thing about your phone. You don't have to bring a laptop along if you don't want to. That's booking.com. And I also have on here Orbitz, which I showed you. So here's Orbitz. And again, it's got that potential trip. Remember that one? It remembered that I searched that. So it transferred that memory of what I did from the laptop to my phone. And here again are the flights. I won't click on it just so we don't want to spend more time, but mimics all the same behavior. What's nice again about having Orbitz, like booking.com or Airbnb, is all my reservations are stored on my phone. So I don't have to go put them somewhere else. I just open the app, and the app will show me the trips that I have coming up and where I might have my lodging or my car reservation or my flight. So those are some good apps that you can use that are just like on your laptop. Now here's some that are kind of unique to the phone. And these are ones I like to point out to people. I'm actually going to first show you one that's not on my travel apps, but is really, really handy, which is Google Translate. And you might use Google Translate already on your phone or on a laptop. It's a great app. I like it a lot. And you can pick going from one language to any other language. So you can see right here on my phone, it's defaulted to set up English. I guess the last thing I was looking for a translation was English to French. But if I click on French, you can see it drops down all these options. I can go to Italian, I can go to German, I can go to Spanish, which are all the languages I've most recently used. Or I can just start scrolling through all the world's language. You want to translate from English to Basque? You can do it. I'm going to stick with what I've got here, English to French. And so there's there's multiple ways you can use this. If I want to say, if you can store for yourself some phrases that you use over and over again. So I want to say, good morning. It's got down there, you see it does bonjour. And what's
Bonjour.
nice is it will
Bonjour.
it will actually vocalize it so I can hear it, so I can learn how to say it. And then what's neat is it will also store all those things. So you can store a whole bunch of sayings and phrases on your Google Translate. So if you want to say, now, how did I say good night? How did I say, where's the bathroom? How do I say, cup of coffee, please? Those are all the standard things you can save on your phone. If you then just click the X like that, see down here, look at this. It saved all the French expressions. See, there's good morning, bonjour. Then there's Friday, which is vendredi. There's, así is so. Peregrinos is pilgrims. By the way, I may make a little correction here. These are all the translations I've looked for, not just French. So así is Spanish, peregrinos is Spanish, suegro, father-in-law is Spanish. So it'll store all those for you. You can also download a language using Google Translate. Now I'm going to show you something that's really, really cool that if you are in another country and you have, for example, a travel brochure or a menu, and I happen to pull out a travel brochure, maybe you can see this on my camera. This is something I picked up in Switzerland. And I was going through a box the other day and I found it. I said, aha, there's one that's got German and English. So you can see it looks like that. I'm going to put it down here on the table and see right here on my app, there's a camera. I'm going to press the camera and turn it on. Now I aim the camera down at the text that I want to translate. And let's do this one down here at the bottom. And it shows me the words right there. Make sure I'm just looking at the text. So Angebote, information unter Jungfrau. Well, you can see, you know what? It's confused because that's English and German. All right. If you go up here and you do over Mai to October, let's see if it does it correctly. It's trying to see too much language. Anyway, it doesn't like all the fonts I'm discovering. I should have practiced with this one. It will translate for you. So I found it most useful when I'm doing a menu. I'm gonna take that away now, stop that so it doesn't confuse you. I've done it with a menu. If you want to know what the item is, you hold it over the language that's there and it will translate for you. So that's a handy thing you can do with Google Translate. One other thing you can do with Google Translate is you can put in a phrase you want to ask someone, and like, where's the bus station? In Spanish, you type that in English, say translate from English to Spanish, and then it writes it out in Spanish, and you can show that to someone else who doesn't speak English and you don't speak Spanish, for example. And they'll go, oh, you want to know where the bus station is? And they can even maybe use Google Translate to give you the answer back. More likely, they'll start pointing and giving you some kind of directions with their hands or something like that. But that's another handy thing that I had a lot of people tell me they do with Google Translate. Another app that I really like is called Globe Convert. It's this one right here. And Globe Convert does so many things. It will right here, I've got currency converted. So we were last night in our travel class, Mary was there, I know. The guy who was on the video kept showing up prices like he would say a tour costs 400 pesos. Well, I thought, quick, what's the current exchange rate on the peso to the dollar? I knew it was around 5 cents. And so I put in there and I said, this is showing me the Mexican peso right here to the US dollar. So it's a nickel. 1 peso is a nickel. You can also look at it the other way and you can say, what is 1 US dollar? How many pesos do you get? And the answer is $1 gives you about 19.8 pesos. And you can use all sorts of currencies. I have, you can't quite, you can see it. At the bottom, you notice I have a little something down here that says favorites. And I store a lot of my common conversions. So here's a whole bunch of currency. Euro to US dollar. You click on that. 1 euro is $1.21. You can use this to plan a trip. So you're trying to figure out how much it's going to cost you in dollars to go somewhere. And if something says it's going to cost you 1 euro or 100 euros to do something, you know that's going to cost you $121. So that's a great thing you can do. But there's so much more you can do with this. As soon as you leave the US, you will discover they don't use the English system. They use the metric system. The entire world is in a conspiracy. 95% of the world is using a different measuring system. Oh no, what do I do? What are weights? What are distances? What are volumes? Well, Global Convert will help you do that. Let's say you want to figure out temperature. You see a sign, you're in Spain, and the sign says it's 19 degrees. And obviously, it's warmer than 19 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can use your Global Convert and you can put in 19 and it'll tell you, oh, that's 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, here's a little trick. I've learned this over the years because I've traveled a lot abroad. I mean, we're even talking about Canada or Mexico or Colombia, anywhere you go outside the US, they're using the metric system. I've just memorized in my head what the Celsius temperatures mean. So I know that 21 is really feels good. That's about 70 degrees. And I know that 10 is getting pretty cool. That's getting down into the low 40s. So it's a handy thing just to write that down for yourself. But there's so much more you can convert. Let's say you're out and you want to know a distance, which would be, and here would be length. And you see a sign that says something is 18 kilometers. Oops, that's not 118.
Oh my God, kilometers. Oh.
It'll be 11 miles. Okay. I spent 5 weeks walking in Spain and everything was in kilometers. Nothing was in miles. So I pretty quickly translated every distance in my head into kilometers. I knew that if I could walk 3 miles an hour, that meant I could walk 5 kilometers an hour. So if a sign said that the town coming up was 10 kilometers away, I said, well, that's gonna be about 2 hours of walking. This is very useful to learn this. I showed you temperature, I showed you length. Let's talk about
time zone. Do they do time zones?
Yes, they have time zones up here. Okay, and it looks like you download a separate app for time zones. So I'm not going to do that one right now because I don't want to go through that. But let's say I want to do weight. So this is a very handy thing. Let's say you are in a delicatessen in Germany and they've got all sorts of nifty stuff up there, but everything says a price is by 100 grams. That's a very typical weight overseas, 100 grams. So that's 100 kilograms. So that's a little bit heavy. Let's just point out that 1 kilogram, 1,000 grams is 2.2 pounds. That's another one of these little nifty conversions you should have in your head. But I can also use conversion by grams. Okay, there it is, grams. So let's look at 100 grams again. That's a little bit less than a quarter pound. That's a very typical weight in a store anywhere in the world when they're selling things by weight, is they'll sell them by the 100 grams. And just keep in your head, that's a little bit less than a quarter pound. If you're used to think of like half a pound or pound in weights, like cheese, often you'll see meats or cheeses are in pounds or half a pounds or ounces. Forget ounces. Ounces is crazy. Learn this. Now, here's another thing just to help you out is that a lot of commonly purchased items in grocery stores today, I'm going to say probably all of them list their weights in grams as well as pounds and ounces. Spend time looking at that. I get some stores that are international, like Aldi's is a good one. Aldi's has most of their things in international volumes and weights. It'll also be packaged for the US, but for example, we used to buy a lot of sparkling water at Trader Joe's. We don't do it anymore because I have a soda stream that makes sparkling water, but we would buy them and they were liter bottles. And so I eventually learned, a liter is, about a quart. So you just learn this stuff. But if you have any uncertainty, this Globe Convert is really good to figure that out for you. Let me just show you a couple other apps that are fun. I did mention traffic. That's this one right here called INRIX. I won't show you that this morning. That's especially good for national traffic. So I usually check INRIX when I go to the airport in the morning. Haven't done that in years, but I used to fly once a month out of Dulles Airport. And the first thing I checked when I got up in the morning was traffic to see if there was an accident on the interstate. I'm going to show you this one called Hopper because this is only on your phone. And this is a good site for finding airfares. You go into Hopper and you create an account, and then it's only on an app, by the way. It's not, you can't do it on your laptop, and you can find a flight you would like to take sometime in the future. So I put one in right here that is Washington, D.C. to Paris. You see this one right here? And just for fun, I put in July 28th to August 12th. And I saved that search. So Hopper knows I want to make that flight. And I click on that. Now Hopper is looking for the latest price for that flight. So we'll let the bunny hop a bit and then we'll see what it comes up with. It goes out on those dates. It searches for flights. Taking a while, isn't it, to get to his destination, finding that flight. There you go. It says right now, the current lowest price is $637 per traveler. And then down below that, see, it says you should keep watching this trip. So Hopper is watching it for you. So it says you'll be notified when deals are available or prices start to rise. Okay, so you will get a notification on your phone saying, hey, the price dropped to $579. That's probably the best price you're going to get. Book it now. So I've done this. In fact, when the last time my wife and I flew was to Italy in 2019 when we walked the way of St. Francis. And I put into Hopper in January, I was going in probably in the fall. I didn't know when, September, October, sometime. I just put in that I wanted to fly to Italy. And I just put it in my phone. And within a week, I got a notification that there was a great deal, a great price on Italian airline, which is through Delta. And so we went out and we grabbed it. We said, well, we know where we're going to go. So we went and we searched for the flight on Delta and we found the price. We actually used air miles and we found a heck of a deal. And that was because Hopper had notified us. So Hopper is a really good site to use to keep an eye on flights when you know where and when you want to travel. I showed you Scott's cheap flights before. Scott specializes in just finding cheap deals, whereas Hopper specializes in finding the best price for an itinerary that you already know you want to make. We're going to have to close here in a minute. I'll just show you a couple more of my apps that are here. For example, there's this one Deutsche Bahn right here. That's what I mentioned, that's one of those international train apps. That's the German National Railway. And when I have traveled by train quite a bit in Germany, and I've made my reservations on Deutsche Bahn, and then the ticket and everything is on my phone. So when I'm on the train and the guy comes through to check your ticket, I just pull out my phone and there it is. So that's one thing I like about this. I've had ScotRail on here. I don't have all the apps that I've used because some of them I've taken off just to save some space. Here's a fun one I was showing you. If you are traveling to the seashore, you can get this one called Tides Near Me. And you can find out when the high tide and low tide is. So my wife and I like to go over to Ocean City, Maryland, and go to Assateague Island once or twice a year. And so I don't have to worry about when the tides are. I don't have to find that research ahead of time. When we get there, I just click on this and it tells me when the high tide and low tide is going to be that day and every day for the next week. And one other fun one I'll show you that I just like for travel, I even use it when I'm around home, is the altimeter. It's a free app and it will tell you what your altitude is. So if you want to know the altitude of where I'm sitting today, it's 1,470 feet. And what's fun is wherever you're traveling, you can save a location. And so like last Saturday, we were out hiking with the family. That's Kieseltown right here. That's where we were hiking. May 8th, right there. Well, but what time? And it gives us the coordinates and GPS. So if you want to locate where you are on the globe, these are your coordinates. And the altitude was 29 feet. So we climbed about 1,400 feet because where we started was about the same altitude as where I live. I've done this all over the world just because it's fun. I've saved places in Italy that I've been. There's Trevi, a town in Italy I was at. I can see that the altitude was similar to the altitude of where I am right now. I've also done it when I was in Scotland. When I was biking, I stopped at a place called East May, and you can see the altitude is not very high, but the reason I stayed there was because it's the farthest north I've ever been, 58 degrees from the equator. So I like to be able to spot those places, keep little data. And it's helpful when you want to know when you're somewhere on a bus or a plane or someplace and you want to know where you are. We were in Bogota. We went to this place called Montserrat, which is a big little village and church above the city. And you take a cable car up there, but you can also walk. Well, that was 10,393 feet. I marked it. I just like to know how high I was. It's a fun thing to do. I'm going to pause and ask if there are any more questions because we do have to close in a minute.
I have a question and a comment. I've been to Montserrat and I took the train and it was so scary.
You can take a cable car, you can take the cogwheel train, and you can walk.
And it's too high to walk, but it was awesome.
Yep, it was awesome. I've actually been there twice. Each time I've been to Bogota, and the last time we went, we walked. If it looks like I was really high at 10,000 feet, you have to know that I started out at 8,000 some feet. Okay. So didn't walk quite as high as it might look like I did.
Wow. I have a question about if you download the offline translate file.
Yes.
Would it take up a lot on your phone, a lot of storage? Say
Yeah.
if you download Spanish or, Italian, will it be taking
it will take up space, and it should tell you before you download it how much space it's going to take. And then the other thing I would do is when you're done with your trip, delete it.
Delete it, yeah. Okay. But don't just keep it on there.
When we do the class tomorrow on using your mobile phone for traveling, one of the things I'll show you is how you can download maps, Google Maps offline, so that if you're in a place where you don't have data, like you can't get information from a cell phone, your phone always keeps your GPS coordinate on the earth, and so you can at least pull up a map and it'll show you where you are in the world, even if you're not using data.
Okay, thank you.
Are you going to have that class besides tomorrow? Because I can't make either Wednesday or Thursday's classes.
You bet I will. You bet I will.
Okay.
That'll be a regular class, and I will make sure that they get scheduled on alternate weeks in the afternoon so that people can come in the afternoon. Yep.
Russ, is the Hopper app, is that a membership?
No, Hopper is free. The app is free and the membership is free. Yeah, that's why I like it. I'm very wary of membership things.
Is global also global?
It's also free. I think every app I showed you today, all the apps on my phone are free.
Okay.
I'm not against paying for an app one time if it's useful. I will mention, because one of the things I don't do, I tend to not sign up for things that give me like a 1 week, 2 week, or 1 month trial, unless I'm sure I'm going to want to do it. You know why? I often forget when the trial period ends. And next thing I know, I've got a charge on my phone for $14.99. I'm trying to remember what it is. Because like, oh yeah, I got on YouTube Premium for a month. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So that's just personal preference. I'm getting old. My memory isn't as good as it used to be.
That's right.
Well, you were a great class. This is a fun class to teach. Any more questions? I don't want to rush it, but again, tomorrow there's a mobile class. This class will repeat, so you can come back to another time. The mobile, using your mobile phone class will repeat. So if you don't get to come tomorrow or if you can't come to one of the other classes, it'll be at another time.
Okay.
Well, you'll get some notes at the end of the class and an email, so keep an eye out for that. You'll also get a chance to give me feedback. I love feedback. Any way I can make the class better, please let me know. You'll also get an email address if you want to contact me for any reason about anything you would like to learn, suggested classes or suggested participation in a class. Like maybe you've got a great travel skill you'd like to share with other people. We've got people who do that, by the way. In fact, this evening, we've got somebody coming at 7 o'clock, Marjorie Turner Holman, who is a person that experiences challenges with mobility. In other words, she was paralyzed and she has a harder time walking more than about 2 miles, but she's made it her sort of life's mission to find what she calls easy walks, places you can walk easily, but still see some great sights. And they're mostly local. She's done them where she lives in Massachusetts, but she's got great tips on how to find those kind of walks and take them and record them. So please join us at 7 o'clock tonight. And again, if you have one of those kind of skills you'd like to share, please reach out and touch me through email. Have a great day, everybody. And at noon, we have our interview in about an hour with Mark Miller. If you want to know about disruption in work through the pandemic, he's an expert. We'll tell you some of that. Have a good afternoon and morning, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
See you
Bye.
now.